Hi, this is Eric from DevOpsTechBlog.com. In this demo, we're going to be creating an S3 bucket and use it to host a website. And we're also going to be creating a hosted zone in Route 53 so we can access our bucket using an alias. So right now, I'm on my AWS Management Console. And the first thing that we need to do is create a VPC. So I'm going to click on Find Services and search for VPC. Okay, so we can go ahead and click on VPC and click on Create VPC. Let's give it a name of VPC1 and a CIDR block. So I'm giving it 192.168.0.0/16, and I'm using the North California region. And click Create. Now we could go ahead and create a subnet, and let's just call it subnet 1 and attach it to our VPC. And I'm going to use US 1A as an availability zone. And let's give this subnet a CIDR block. Let's do 192.168.1.0/24 and create that. Okay. Now I want to create an EC2 instance because we're going to be creating a alias only to be used within our VPC. It's not going to actually be public, and I'll show you what I'm referring to in a little bit. But we'll use this EC2 instance to test out our website. So I'm going to click on Launch Instance and select the Amazon Linux 2 AMI and T2 Micro and click Next. So we just need one instance, and it's on our VPC1 network and our subnet. And I'm going to enable auto-assign public IP and click on Review and Launch and click on Launch. So if you don't have a key pair, let's create one. I'll name it KP2 and download it. So we'll use that to connect to our instance and click on Launch Instance. And I'm using a Windows machine, so it may be different depending on if you're using Linux or a Mac or Windows. But if you're using Windows, you could just follow along and click on View Instances, and we can see that our instance is starting up. Now we can go ahead and create an S3 bucket. So I'm going to, under Storage, right-click on S3 and open it up in a new tab. And I have some buckets that I made earlier, but we're not going to be using those. We're just going to create a new bucket. So click on Create Bucket. Now, here's something very important. The name that we use for our bucket has to be unique across all of the AWS infrastructure. So we'll give it a unique name, but it also needs to match the name we're going to use as our domain name for our hosted zone alias in Route 53. So let's give it a unique name. I'm going to name mine DevOps Tech Blog Demo S353.com. Now, obviously, since all of them have to be unique, just go ahead and create a unique name, and you just remember that name so we could use it for Route 53. And I'm in America, so I'm using US West. And in Route 53, in order to create an alias, you want to use the closest region that you are at. So I believe US West is the only region you can use if you live in America, and you'll see that there are other options depending on what part of the world you live in. Now, something very important, if you were creating this for people to access on the internet and be able to access your hosted website, you have to make sure that you uncheck block all public access so they're able to access that site. So I'm going to uncheck that and click on this checkbox to acknowledge that I want it to be public, and then I'm going to click on create bucket. So now I have my DevOps Tech Blog demo s353.com bucket, and I'm going to click on it. And the first thing I need to do is we need to upload an index.html file and an error.html file. So go ahead and create that. You could use any text editor or notepad on your computer and just create an index.html file and go ahead and you can drag it here and upload it, and also an error.html file. And I'll show you what I put in those files in a second. And click next. I'm going to grant public read access, and I'll get a message here warning me that everybody in the world will have read access to these objects. Click next. We could leave the default standard storage class and upload. So you should get your files here. I'll show you here what's in these files. So I'm going to click on index.html and click on open. And I just have an H1 header for that. This is the home page. And if I go back to error.html and open that, I have this message. So when we curl this site, when we use our EC2 instance, we should get those messages there. Now, once we're done creating our bucket, now once we do that, we can click on our site name and click on properties. And you see we have different options here for our S3 bucket. What we're concerned with is static website hosting, so I'm going to click on that. And it defaults to disable website hosting. So what we want to do is click on use this bucket to host a website. And we have to make sure we enter the right name for index.html and error.html. And click on save. So now you should get this check mark here, bucket hosting, and that is telling us that it is enabled. So now we can go ahead and go to Route 53. So search for Route 53 under services. I'm going to open it up in a new tab. And once we're here under DNS management, we could click on get started now. And let's create a hosted zone. Now, remember this domain name has to match the name of our S3 bucket. So whatever name you use, make sure it matches. So I'm going to copy mine and paste it here. And you could choose either a public hosted zone or a private hosted zone. So we'll choose private for this demo, and we'll specify the VPC we used. So if you search for the region, you should see your VPC there. Just go ahead and click on that. So here's an important message in order to set this up. for private hosted zones, we have to go back and make sure enable DNS host names and enable DNS support is enabled. So let's go and search for VPC. You could open it up in a new tab and click on our VPC and go to Actions. And you see these two options, Edit DNS Resolution and Edit DNS Host Names. So let's go ahead and click on those and make sure it's enabled. So DNS Resolution is enabled. So we'll save that. Edit DNS Host Names. It's not enabled by default, so let's go ahead and enable that and save it. Okay, so once that's done, we could go back to Route 53 and click on Create. Okay, so now we have our hosted zone file. Let's create a record set. And I'm going to leave this blank. We'll leave it on type A record, and where it says alias, we'll change it to yes. And you should have your bucket for your S3 website endpoint. We'll click on that and click Create. Okay, so now we have our alias created. So once we have that done, under Edit Record Set the name here, we can use this name to connect to our site because we created it as an alias, and it makes it a lot easier than using a S3 endpoint name. So now I'm going to go back to EC2. We can see our EC2 instance is running. And I'm going to connect to that EC2 instance. So in order to connect on Windows, I use the PuTTY key generator. And the way to do that is to click on Load, click on All Files, and we have to find our key. Okay, so I named mine kp2.pem. Click on Open and save private key. Now we can save it as a PuTTY private key file. Let's use the same name. Make sure you use the same name. So kp2 was the name I gave it. Click on Save. Once we do that, we can go ahead and use PuTTY to connect. But before we do this, we actually have to create an internet gateway and make a route to it in our VPC section. So I went back to VPC, click on Internet Gateway and create an Internet Gateway. I'm just going to call it IG1. Okay, so that's created. And I'm going to attach it to VPC and select our VPC. Okay, now it's attached. And click on Route Tables and Routes, and we're going to edit routes, and we're going to add a route. So we're going to give it a public default route of 0, all zeros, and for the target, we're going to choose our internet gateway and click Save. Okay, we should be good to go. So on your PuTTY configuration tool, we'll click on SSH and auth, and we'll browse for our key. So kp2.ppk, it should have a ppk, extension file name. So open that and then go back to session, and we have to find the public IP of our EC2 instance. So let's copy that and paste it here, and we can use the EC2 user EC2 user at, and then paste our public IP address and open. So we should get a security alert. We could click yes, and you should be able to access your EC2 instance. So once we have that, I want to go to Route 53 and let's make sure curl is installed. So let's do a yum install curl. Okay, so do a sudo yum install curl. If it's already installed, that's good. So we should be able to use this DevOps Tech Blog Demos s353.com domain name that we created, and let's copy that. So I'm going to copy that, do a curl and copy that here. So you can see that it is working, and we get our message, this is the home page, and now you are able to use a DNS name, domain name as your endpoint name, so you can easily give that out to anybody that needs to use your site, maybe a developer, and it makes it much easier to access your hosted website. And you could also do this publicly if we created a public domain name. So that is how you create an S3 hosted website with an alias using Route 53. Thank you for watching.